morning and welcome to week 3 of the 36-month Forex Trading Challenge. Bit of an update. It's Monday morning around about 9 o'clock, 10 to 9. Been up early as usual doing market analysis. News out of China overnight wasn't particularly great, but the market reacted to say that it was not too bad. So seen some spikes in Aussie dollar and New Zealand dollar. What I'd done on my pound Aussie short trade, I'd rolled my stop to entry last night, anticipating that things could go either way. Luckily the market has gone down, the Aussie strengthened, so that trade is now profitable, about to hit its initial target, which is a good start to the week. But last week was a bit disappointing, a bit difficult. Had a great couple of days in London. It meant I was managing positions, but it meant I wasn't really in the market. And at the end of last week, doing the analysis over the weekend, where I am in terms of closed trades is down on the account to the tune of minus 1.9% on opening capital. So having had a good week 1, week 2 sees me in drawdown, but there are still over 2 weeks left, and got a couple of good high probability trades on in pound Aussie short and US dollar CAD short. Which I'm pretty confident in. Not so confident that I won't get out if things turn against me, but in terms of how things are stacking up on the monthly and weekly charts, and also on my trading timeframes daily, where I do most of my analysis, and then on the 240 where I do my trade execution, things are looking quite favourable. So yeah, all set for a good week, hopefully, but you never know in the markets, which is why you have a stop loss. But I'm a bit annoyed about something, because last night I checked the market, checked my broker accounts at around about 10 past 10 at night, and noticed there was 2 long positions had cropped up in pound Aussie. Now I keep meticulous records, and I'd not noticed, looking back at these records, I'd not recorded these as being live trades. And I looked at the timestamp on these trades, and they were at 12:16 p.m. on Friday when I was in London. I was actually on Regent Street, so I was nowhere near the market, which is a bit strange. And they've only cropped up in eToro. They haven't cropped up in my private broker account, so not quite sure what's going on. I've logged a support ticket with eToro. What I did last night, as soon as I saw these trades and realised that they weren't part of my strategy, I got no recollection or no records of them, I closed out the position, both positions. But that was a loss of just over $100 US. So I'm looking to get that reinstated from eToro, and yeah, a little bit annoyed because that's not great, and I need them to explain to me why those trades appeared. If they can prove that I set them, then fair enough. But as I say, I keep meticulous records. It's one of the reasons I do keep meticulous records. Anyway, let's jump into the charts very quickly, give you a quick update on Monday morning as to where we are and what I'm doing. This morning's blog post here, month 1, day 11 of the 36-month Forex Trading Challenge. And by the way, if you are enjoying the videos, and you want a snapshot as to what's going on each day, I've usually got a blog post up by around about 9 a.m. And this is today's, talk about all the trades in there, yeah, this is the eToro thing, or eToro issue I was talking about. So yeah, you can subscribe here. This is on a blogger account. You can subscribe at stgforex.tv. Anyway, into the charts. Let's look at pound Aussie first off. So I entered here on the 11th, so last week. Rolled the stop, as I said, overnight ahead of news out of China, which wasn't particularly great, but the market interpreted it as better than expected. Just hit the first target, so I've taken off half of my position. I now have a risk-free trade, stops at entry on this pair. And as I've said before, on this pair, if I go out to the daily, I think we've got quite a long way to potentially go, all the way potentially down to here. If you look at what's going on the monthly, you'll see we're below the 50 simple moving average. If I look at the weekly, you'll see that we are now trading below the 50 and the 200 simple moving average. So I think this pair's got a long way to go, but who knows? We'll not know until it happens. But what I am going to be doing on my execution time frame, which is my 240 4-hour chart, I'm going to be looking to add to this position and roll the stop all the way down. Let's now look at the other pairs I am trading. So let's quickly dive into the majors. So the major currency pairs, those pairs against the US dollar. And I've got a very similar setup, similar set of circumstances on US dollar CAD. Another short position here. Stop's not at entry as yet, so keeping the stop outside of the 50 simple moving average. Entered here on a trend trade strategy. You'll see the exponential moving averages are getting wider. The 50 simple moving average is falling down. Got my target here to take off half the position. Target set just below the even handle of 1.3000, so I need to be watchful of that. It's always set at a 1-to-1 reward to risk ratio, and it's a very, very, very similar setup here. If I look at the monthly, you will see we're below the 50 simple moving average, the pink line. If I look at the weekly, where is it? Here we go. You'll see again below the 50, below the 200. So again, similar to pound Aussie, I think this pair has got quite a way to fall. And you know, you don't need to have that many trades on. If you pick the market right and then you leverage that trade by adding to the position, you don't need many trades at all using the strategies that I'm using and the targets that I have to reach my goal. You don't need many trades at all to hit that goal. So yeah, decent start to the week after not such a good week last week. And then if I go into my synthetics, I'll just show you, in fact, let me just show you the, so my Aussie trade last week closed out, basically we reversed and hit this level here. What I've done now, this was a Golden Gate strategy, I've taken off the indicators here. What I've done now is introduced a couple of rules that say I enter a Golden Gate strategy when price closes below the moving averages, but what I should have done, what I would do now in line with my refined rules is get out of a third of a position here when there's a close back above the 200 and get out a second third of a position here when price closes back above the 50. What I don't want to be doing is leaving things to hit my initial stop. I want to be cutting my losses as best I can early. Let's just jump into the synthetics. So these are the cross pairs. I'm not quite sure why that's there. Can't seem to get rid of. Oh, there we go. It's gone. Good. Synthetics, and I put a trade on this morning in Euro Swissy. This Z signal was the close at 10 p.m. on Friday. Couldn't get in last night, Sunday evening at 10 p.m. The spread's just too wide when the market opens. But because we'd not gone above the high of this Z signal candle, I got in here short. Stops well out of reach above the 200 and the 50. I've got my target here. If I look at the daily, you can see we're in trend rather. So we've had a lower low, we've had a lower high, and there's every reason to suggest we could push down to a lower low into my target area here. So that's it. We'll continue to update. I'm away from the markets today a little bit, but we'll be checking in at 10 o'clock and 2 p.m, 6 p.m, and then again at 10 p.m. Just holding these three trades, no additional trades to add at the moment, although there are some potential signals showing up, but I have some margin limitations. If I go out to my account here, this is open profit here now. If I go out to account here, trade funds available, yeah, I'll probably get one more trade off if I need to, but yeah, we'll see, only if signals show up. This pound Aussie target's been hit now, so got booked profit of half of the position, just above £500 there. So yeah, decent start to the week. Well, good morning. It's Tuesday, around about 9:15, and the story of the last couple of hours is weakness in the pound. I've got a pound Aussie short on, which is doing very well. and just looking at opportunities now for 10 o'clock. Morning market analysis is done, up very early. So we're all set for the 10 o'clock close. Interesting that there's pound weakness ahead of pound news, UK pound news out at 9:30. Be interesting to see what happens there. But my pound Aussie trade is fully protected. The stop is at entry, but there could be an opportunity for me to add to this position at 10 o'clock. Added another position on yesterday. Didn't record a video on that yesterday. I'll show you that in a moment. But been reading this this article. Let me pop around. I've got this on the screen here, so I'm just going to read this. This is an article. In fact, that's not very helpful with the sun in the background. So there we go. Yeah, reading this article, which is to my right. It's about day trading, and it's on one of the broker platforms that just happened to pop up on FOREX Factory, which is the platform I use for my my news stuff. And it talks about day trading. So it's on a broker platform. You know, the message is encouraging people to day trade, which is something I don't do. But it says about day trading. It says up to 90 to 95% of day traders that attempt to take on this challenging job eventually lose money due to falling victims of their lack of discipline to hold winners and cutting losers, for instance. Poor risk management, psychological hacks, the market tricks us with, falling victim of internal emotional battles, lack of focus, no perseverance, strategy hopping, or to put it more bluntly, simply not treating day trading as a professional business. So I read this article. Obviously, it's to encourage people to day trade. As I say, I don't do that. I trade on a 4-hour chart and look at the longer term time frames. But quite interesting in terms of some of the things that it says that trip traders up. Absolutely, you've got to run trading as a professional business. Absolutely, you've got to have a plan. And for me, psychology is really what it's all about. How I choose to play the game, and whether I can follow my rules, whether I can follow my discipline, which is designed to give me a 2-to-1 risk-reward ratio. It's designed to get me to my monthly target, and it's designed to help me cut losses quickly, or to cut positions that aren't going anywhere quickly, to hold my winners for as long as possible. So just thought I'd share that on the video. Yeah, let's jump into the charts, and I'll show you what's going on. So here we go. We've got red flag news here. Average earnings index for pound, which will impact pound, or could impact pound, depending on not necessarily the result, but the reaction to the result. It's around about 9:20 now, so we've got 10 minutes for that. But ahead of that, have a look at what's happening in pound dollar. This is happening across all of the pound pairs, cross pairs. There seems to be certainly a short-term sell-off in the pound. It'd be interesting to see what the reaction is at 9:30. I was considering taking a short here. Didn't take this short. Had a short on in pound Aussie, yeah, just margin restrictions, etc., on my account. Meant I couldn't take this position, but yeah, we'll see what happens. Just in terms of an update on other trades that I'm in, if I jump into US dollar Swissy, you'll see I entered here. Yeah, it's kind of tracked up. There's been some downward pressure. This trade is not really going in the direction that or as fast as I would hope it would go in the direction, but this is still a valid trade. I'll begin to exit this position if the dashed orange line crosses over the black dashed line. That's the 10 exponential moving average crosses back over the 50 exponential moving average. So at the moment it's just a game of patience. US dollar CAD, yeah, it's kind of a similar story. Got in here. So we're about just above my entry level. Again, there's some pressure back against my my trade. I still think this is a valid trade, bearing in mind what's going on the monthly and the weekly. But again, there's nothing to do at the moment. I'll lighten up on this position if the dashed orange line crosses over the black dashed line. So let's jump into the new trade that I made yesterday. This is on one of the synthetic pairs. So I've got two positions on where I'm long the Swissy, long the Swiss franc. So let's jump in there and have a look. Just while I wait for this to load, listen to Bloomberg. I always listen to Bloomberg ahead of the news. They tend to give the news results quite quickly. I don't trade the news, so I don't sit there with my button on the finger ready to press it and try and jump on with the rest of the crowd. What I do with the news is I look to protect my positions ahead of the news. My pound Aussie trade is fully protected, so my stop is at entry, so that's fine. I also look to the reaction to the news. So if it's good news for the currency, a particular currency, but the reaction is not as expected, that could potentially tell me something about the future direction. But I do not trade the news. Okay, so this is the Euro Swissy. So entered here yesterday. This was on a full house strategy, and as you can see, we are kind of just edging towards halfway towards target. So this is a really bearish candle, a Y signal candle. So I'm just going to hold that and see what happens. And then finally, as a very quick update, things may change in the next 5 minutes or so. Let's have a look at the pound Aussie trade that I have on, which is progressing nicely. Already taken off some profit off the table with this pair. So I'm just holding now for as long as possible. I think it's got quite a way to run, but would depend, I guess, in part on what happens in about 5 minutes on the pound news. So let me just see if we can load that up. I think one of the difficulties in trading is actually doing nothing. The mentality of people in a regular job, you've got to be doing something to get paid. In trading, actually, you do something and then you don't do anything for quite a period of time, and that's how you get paid. And it was Jesse Livermore that said, in reminiscences of a stock operator, that it wasn't his doing that got him wealthy, it was actually his sitting, which meant that it was actually watching the market and sticking long term with a position. So here we go. Wow, okay, so this is really progressing well. This is primarily on pound weakness, a little bit of Aussie strength in there, although the Aussie dollar is kind of at the top of what I believe is a range currently. This is a YX reversal candle. This could give me the opportunity, depending on what happens in a moment, to get an additional position on now to take this position short on slightly higher leverage, but we'll see where we end up in a couple of minutes. So I'm going to jump back now into the pound dollar pair, the cable, and I'm going to stop the recording and come back in a minute once the news is out. Okay, so the news is imminent here in Forex Factory. Let's just refresh that. This generally takes a little bit of time to come through. I generally get the news from Bloomberg or by watching the price action. No real reaction at the moment in the pound. We've probably got a minute or so to see what happens. It will be interesting to see what happens. Just while that happens, just a quick update on my eToro issue and the 2 rogue trades that I had on. 2 rogue trades that I queried with eToro the other day. I posted my comment into the help center here. Pound Aussie errors. These were these 2 buy orders that seemed to pop up that I had no recollection of placing and no record of placing. Not had a response yet. I've chased this morning, but I'm keeping a track on that. Obviously I trade exactly the same in eToro as I do on my private broker account. I aim to make sure that I'm getting the level of service that I need, but I'll keep you posted on that and keep you posted on what they say. Okay, let's see if this news is out now. Okay, so still waiting. What's the time check? Yeah, it's 9:30. So we've got some news I can hear in my ear from Bloomberg. Seems to be very little reaction here. Let's go back and refresh. Here we go, we're talking about it on Bloomberg now. And by the way, if you want to get Bloomberg, you can you can go to Bloomberg Radio online, and I put that on my phone, just click to listen to that, and it's quite helpful
You tend to get the major announcements early-ish, or as early as possible. But yeah, we're still waiting. This is one of the reasons that I don't trade on the news, because if I was waiting for this to happen to do something, I'm already probably too late, because the big banks, the big financial institutions, they've got this information way ahead of me. Okay, so it's a mixed result. It looks like green is generally good for the currency, red is not so good, and this is kind of as expected. So that kind of explains why there's not too much movement in pound dollar cable. So I'll sign off this section now. I'm going to be looking again at 10 o'clock. Got a number of opportunities that could present themselves, and I'll certainly be looking to add to my pound Aussie trade if at all possible.
It's day 13 of the challenge. Unlucky for some, or not, as the case may be. And a quick progress report. Written this morning's blog post. Was up early as usual. Not feeling great at the moment. Got some kind of cold or something going off, which makes it harder to get up. But discipline is the most important thing. So I was up early this morning doing the market analysis and getting prepared for the day. Talk about this in today's blog post. And if you've not seen the blog post, if you go to stgforex.tv, stgforex.tv, I put a blog post up, usually before about 9 a.m. every weekday. So take a look. And one of the things I talk about in the blog post today is the fact that it's kind of changes in how I'm sort of doing things in the market and what I'm feeling about the market. So I've got very, very strict rules, very, very strict trading rules. You've got to have strict trading rules to be successful in foreign currency trading. And it used to be that I kind of break my rules every now and again, but what I've realized now is that the pain associated, or the discomfort associated with breaking my rules, is much greater than the pain of taking a financial loss, which effectively I have to do if I'm lightening up on positions. So that's good news, because that means that I'm moving in the right direction. The rules should be the thing that I really focus on, as opposed to the balance on the account, because if I focus on the rules and the discipline, the balance on my broker account will take care of itself. So this morning on one of my pairs, one of my short pairs, I'll show you in a moment in the charts, a signal came on that said actually things aren't necessarily going as well as they could, that I needed to line up on a third of my position. I kind of ignored this initially, but I had this kind of gut feeling that I needed to not ignore it, and it felt uncomfortable. So I took a third of the position off, resulted in a small financial loss. I've talked about this before, a bit like cutting your hand off to save your arm. So I've done that now and feel a lot better, and actually feeling really good about following the rules, because I wrote this plan based on my experience in the market over many years, and I know that if I stick to the rules and stick to the plan, probability over time will deliver the right result, which is a profitable and winning trading approach. So let's have a quick jump into the charts now, and I'll show you where we are with the positions that I've got on.
So first off, cable, pound dollar. I'm not in a trade here, but I had been stalking a trade here. I missed this entry here for one reason or another. S candle. A signal just showed up at 10 o'clock. It's now around about 10:30 in the morning, but I didn't take this signal because according to my rules, we're on the wrong side of the trend line. This is the downward daily trend. So if I go into the daily chart, you'll see that. And what I don't want to be doing is taking a short position when we're near the bottom of the trend line, or close to the bottom of the trend line. Just wanted to show you this because it will be relevant when we get to the pound Aussie short that I am in. So I am short the pound, just not short the pound against the dollar. So first trade that I am in is the Swissy, US dollar Swiss franc. Daily chart, you can see a downtrend here, closed below this level here, which is a downtrend. So I identify the trend, if there is a trend, or a range, if there is a range, based on the daily chart. So we're now at the top of this channel. You can see my stop is above there. On the 240 chart, the 4-hour chart, which is my trading time frame where I execute my trades, I got short here. What's happened is, pretty much following my entry, there's been a reversal back to the top of this trend line. We had a close above the 50 and the 200 simple moving average. Now, that's not great news, but it doesn't necessarily mean that I will get out of the position. What I'm looking for is my specific signals to get out. And here, the 10 exponential moving average crossed over the 30 exponential moving average on the 10 o'clock close. This is the 10 o'clock candle. And what I did, in line with my rules, is I exited a third of the position. So I lightened up on a third of my position, just in case we get back up to here and I get stopped out. So what I'm always looking to do is to minimize my losses, and as well as gradually getting out of a position in a trend trade, I do the same if the position is working against me. US dollar CAD. Okay, so again, let's have a quick look. Daily chart, we're in a downtrend. As I define it, I got in here, so there's been some undulation, traded up to the top of this interim. This is a 240 trend line, and we're now trading back, hopefully down to my my target one. I need to monitor this because we've got the even handle of 1.3000 in the way, but if we get down close to this, I'll be taking 50% of the trade off the table. So this is starting to work in my favor now, although it's been slightly painful, a painful process. So let's jump now into the synthetics or cross pairs. I've got one pair on here still, which is Euro Swissy. It's a kind of similar story. This is a downtrend again, but as you'll see, although price is moving down following my entry, there's been some reversal back towards my entry, and yeah, the exponential moving averages are still in line. We're still below the 50. So, you know, while it's a little bit painful to have had profit in this trade and gone back up, this trade is still looking promising, and there's nothing really for me to do but to watch and wait, take the signals when they show up. And then the final trade that I still have on is pound Aussie. So let's go into that. Now this has been probably the most profitable trade that I've had this month. This is I talk about in the blog post today. I talk about this often. You know, you have winners, you have losers, you have winners, you have losers, and often the winners and the losers net one another off. Ideally, they shouldn't, because you want a 2-to-1 risk reward at least on a winning trade. But sorry, you want a 2-to-1 reward, reward to risk. So you want to make 2 for every 1 that you lose. But that doesn't always happen. And what I'm looking for is the winning trades, the big winners, and it's the big winners that you have the opportunity to add to that generally pay for the month and cover any net losses that you have on other trades. So this is the pound Aussie trade. As I showed you when I pulled up the charts, the pound has been pretty weak, and the success of this trade is more down to pound weakness than it is to Australian dollar strength. Of course, I look at that in the US dollar pairs. This is a cross pair, so it's a makeup effectively of pound dollar and Australia US dollar, Australian dollar and US dollar. So the double dollars there. Let's just see if we can get this up. Yeah, okay, so here, remember I sold up here somewhere here, added to the position yesterday here, still inside my entry. We're very much at the bottom of the daily range here, and I would be expecting a little bit of pressure back up into the top of this range, but who knows. So pretty decent, nothing to do at the moment. The exponential moving averages are inside the 50 simple moving average, so all's looking well. This is a progressive trend that I'm going to stick with as long as possible. So what does that mean in terms of weekly progress? So on the week, I am £135 up on the week. This is made up of, I've lightened up here, I've lightened up here. Forgot to mention that USD CAD, Not sure I covered USD CAD. Maybe I'll go back and do that in a second. Yeah, lighten up on both positions, and Aussie, pound Aussie, I've already booked profit. So risk, in terms of the risk that I still have on, is at this level, which is underneath my maximum exposure. So my risk management is in check. I've got a open profit up here. I'm just under £1,000. So yeah, just holding these positions and looking to hold the profitable ones and get out of the losing ones, or the not so profitable ones, as soon as I can. So let's just jump back into US dollar CAD, which I don't think I showed, and we'll run through what's going on there. So I did actually cover USD CAD, so if I can say that, USD CAD, yeah. But what I failed to mention was that here, on the crossover of the 10 exponential moving average above the 30, I exited a third of the position. So now I am short only 2/3 of my original position up here, and you know, we look to be progressing back down towards this level, but only time will tell.
So it's day 14 of the challenge, 36-month Forex trading challenge, and it's around about 9 a.m. Been up, of course, early again doing the market analysis, and to be honest, not a lot has happened overnight. There was a bit of news out of Australian dollar, a bit of news for the Australian dollar rather, which I'll talk about when I get into the charts. Yeah, I'm just having to be patient, and patience is a virtue. When things aren't progressing with your trades. I've got 4 trades on, they're kind of a bit up, a bit down. The temptation is to start to look for other, perhaps suboptimal opportunities and break the rules. And actually this morning, I talk about it in the blog post, today's blog post, you know, patience is everything, and sticking to the rules is everything. And did a quick Google, found a really, really good quote on Google that reinforces the need for patience, and I popped that in the blog post for you to have a look at. Quick update on eToro, the 2 rogue trades that turned up in my account on Sunday evening. We're a bit back and forth. I queried this on Sunday evening. Some of my copiers now are asking me, you know, what's going on, how does it impact them? I provided more information to eToro, but I've chased them again, and I'll provide an update as soon as I hear back. I'm going to give them another nudge this morning to see where we get to. The trade, number of trades I'm in, but probably the most interesting trade is the pound Aussie dollar short, and I'm going to explain something when I jump into the charts about how to look at that. What is a cross pair, a synthetic pair, which is made up effectively of pound US dollar and also Australian US dollar. So obviously I'm kind of thinking, based on my analysis, that pound US dollar cable is weakening, and Australian US dollar Aussie is strengthening. So anyway, with all that said, I'll jump into the charts and show you that. Not been feeling great for the last couple of days. I've got my gym kit on, so I'm going to be heading off to the gym this morning, and then off to jiu-jitsu. Time to blow some of the cobwebs out, and time to do some exercise. Mental health is very important for a trader. You work alone, you sit in front of a screen for quite a bit of the day, so getting out and about, which trading does allow you to do depending on what time frame you trade on. For me, you know, I have some downtime between the 4-hour candle closes. I only make decisions on the candle closes, so between 10 and 2 I'm going to pop out, do some exercise, and hopefully feel a lot better. But let's jump into the charts and take a look.
So first off, pound Aussie dollar short. This is the trade I've been in for a while now, since the 11th. On the daily, you can see that we are in a kind of downtrend within a downtrend. This downtrend has accelerated quite fast. There is a risk here of a bounce back up to the top here, but so far so good. I've added to this position. I'm just waiting to see what happens. I think there's a really good chance we're going to get down to this level here, but only time will tell. In terms of the 240 chart, the 4-hour chart, notice this bar here, the red bar, which is the 6 a.m. close. This was on Australian dollar news overnight. This was employment news. The news was actually negative for the Australian, well, for Australia. It missed, as it says here. This is FOREX Factory, but full-time employment was up sharply. Now, what the news means, what the number from the news is, doesn't really matter. What matters is the market reaction to it. And for whatever reason, people are discussing it here. The Australian dollar grew in strength as a result of that. We're now reversing that strength, but you know, who knows? One of the reasons I don't trade the news. But I wanted to show you something quite interesting, which is why I'm sticking with this pair and why I have quite a bit of confidence in this short. Pound Aussie is a combination of, it's a cross rate, so it's a synthetic rate. It's a combination of pound dollar and also pound dollar and also Australian dollar. So you know, US dollar either side. You take the US dollar out, you've got the cross pair. So if I go into my charts and I go into my major pairs, it's important to understand what's going on the pound dollar and what's also going on the Australian dollar to see where their respective positions are, because that will give me a clue as to whether my short in pound Aussie is likely to be successful. Now, if we look at the pound, this is pound sterling cable. You can see we're in a downtrend here. This is on the 240 chart. These parallel lines are drawn on the daily chart, so it's the same story. So we've traded down. You'll see we made we closed for a lower low. This was the lowest preceding low. We closed below that for a lower low. We've now traded up, which explains maybe a little bit of the reversal in my shorts. We're now testing this level, and there is a good possibility, I think, that we'll test this and come back down. It is around about 10 to 9 in the morning. We've got pound news out or UK news out, retail sales, which usually, well, depending what the number is, the expectation and the actual, will usually impact the pound currency pair. So that may force something to happen on pound. Don't know which way that will go, no idea. But the general direction is downwards, and that's the important point, because effectively with my GBP AUD short, I'm selling the pound and buying the Australian dollar. So if we're selling the pound here, the pound is selling, the pound is weakening against the dollar. That's good news. If I go into the Australian dollar, this is the daily, you'll see that we're in a range as I define it at the moment. But as you'll see from this range, we've traded down to the bottom of the range, up to the top, down to the bottom, up to the top. But then we're kind of consolidating more or less above the 50 simple moving average on this range. So we've not traded back down to touch the bottom of the range again. And I would have expected that to happen on this push down if it was going to happen at all. We're now trading and testing the top of the range. If I go into the 240, if we close above this level, which defines the top of the range, then we'll be into bullish territory according to my rules. That may happen overnight. It's a daily signal that I look for on that. But as you can see, we're testing the top of the range here in Australian dollar. So Australian dollar relative to the US dollar is kind of performing more strongly. So that's good news as well, because on the pound Aussie short, I'm buying the Australian dollar bullish and I'm selling the UK pound. So those two things combined give me a good clue that my short is potentially heading in the right direction. You never know, that's why I have a stop loss in place, but potentially heading in the right direction. And that's how to read the major pairs and the derivative of the major pairs, which is the cross pairs. Other trades I have on as a quick update: US dollar Swiss, so Swissy. Yeah, we're kind of here, we're tracking the top of this downward trend here. We made a lower low on the daily here, so we're in bearish territory. Bit of stagnation here, but you know, overnight there was some bearish tendency. This is where I entered, so I'm in negative territory at the moment, but I think there's a strong possibility we're going to see more downside, given that all of my signals are pointing to bearish territory for this pair in the foreseeable future, pointing to a weaker dollar and stronger Swiss franc. Okay, and in terms of US dollar CAD, it's a very similar story. US dollar CAD, again, under all the both of the simple moving averages on the daily and on the 240. Yeah, we're kind of traded down, we've gone back up, but we made a lower high. We're now deciding, on the market's deciding whether it's going to make a lower low or press back up into this level. So at around my entry, some slight negative pressure on my entry. I've lightened up on this position, remember. I'd also lightened up on my US dollar Swiss franc position. So if more signals turn up that say, actually, I might be wrong in this trade, without emotion, I'll exit another third of my position. And then the final position that I've got on is Euro CHF, Euro Swiss franc, one of my synthetics. Just update on that very quickly. This trade is in profit, or it was the last time I looked at it. Where are we? Just wait for that to load. Yeah, here we go. So this trade is in profits. Again, it's progressing quite slowly. You'll see on the daily, if that will load, that we are in downtrend. This was a lower low. This was a lower high, and the market's making its decision as to whether it pushes down for a lower low, which I think it will, because I think it will push down to test the 1.1000 handle depicted by this grey line. But only time will tell. And again, I have a stop loss in place to take me out if things don't go my way. So that's a quick wrap up. Not really anything else to do now. I'll be checking in every 4 hours. There are a couple of other opportunities that could potentially be on the table. If those crystallize, I'll be sure to let you know. But yeah, I'm going to go off. I'm going to enjoy the gym. I'm going to enjoy jiu-jitsu and get some air back in the lungs, blow off some of the cobwebs, and you know, start to feel good again after a couple of days of not feeling that good at all.
So quick update just before I leave the house. Retail sales number out for pound UK come in better than expected, predicted minus 0.3%, actual 1.0%. So if I jump into the charts here, what you'll see is that that green candle that is trading upwards now, that's the 10 o'clock close candle. That was already moving up before the news, so there's been no real reaction to that news. In fact, when there's no reaction to the news and the news is positive, that could perhaps tell you something completely different. What you'll notice is I've moved my stop slightly closer. That stop is above the 50 simple moving average. I rolled that just before the news. It's part of my strategy to protect against the news, not to trade the news, and it's outside the top of the interim range and outside the 50 simple moving average. So I'm just going to hold now. If I am stopped out, this will be about a break-even trade, depending on broker fees. But yeah, that's what I've done. That's the game I'm playing today. Protect the capital at all times. So I'll wait and see what happens. So that was the gym, very quick run, a little bit of stretching and a few little weights, nothing too hectic. Now off to jiu-jitsu for the next session of the day. Feeling good. Exercise is good for the mind, body and soul, and I'm definitely feeling that after 2 days in the house. I checked on my positions very briefly, and what I've noticed is that pound Aussie looks to be holding. The bids off the retail sales news, probably by retail traders chasing the news, looks to have held, whatever. And what that might mean is the professionals active now selling into those bids, and often what the professional does is wait for the retail trader to react to the news and then takes the opposite position. They fade the position. So those bids from retail traders potentially this morning could be faded later on this afternoon, giving the professional a better sell entry to sell that pair. But as always, who knows? And time will tell. Stop loss in place. I can't lose money on this trade, so we'll wait and see. Anyway, with that said, let's get in the car. Let's get some training done. Well, that's it. Jiu-jitsu done. Sweat, jiu-jitsu sweat right there. 2 hours of training. Home now for some lunch. And 2 o'clock close is imminent, so checking the markets, see what's going on and see what I need to do next, if anything.
Okay, so back into the charts. New trade entered at 2 o'clock today, which is a short on cable, pound US dollar. Got a downtrend in the pound, you can see here on the daily chart, and then at 2 o'clock got a S signal, rejection of the 50 simple moving average, the pink line. And I sold off this this candle. Price is tracking up now, just testing that 50 simple moving average again. This move here, which was on the 10 o'clock close, yeah, 10 o'clock close. This was driven primarily by retail, the retail sales figure, which is positive for the UK. What happens sometimes, as I mentioned earlier, you get exuberant retail buying the news, and then a professional steps in. They've got an opportunity in what is a downtrend to sell at a better price, and they take the opportunity. So we'll see how this holds out, but at the moment this trade is working as I expected to work. We'll be looking for a push down here into the target. Okay, so other trades that I still have on, and it's a bit of a frustrating time at the moment. This is US dollar Swiss franc, so the Swissy, we're in a kind of consolidation phase within the overall downtrend on the daily. So you can see we're right at the top of the trend line, which I've drawn on the daily chart. This trend line has held, well, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Is it going to hold a 5th time? We'll find out. We're looking for a push down into here. So holding this trade doesn't quite look such a pretty picture on the 240, but we got a rejection here of the simple moving averages, the 200 and the 50. So we've not managed to close above there since here, but that was quickly rejected. So this trade's no reason for me to do anything at the moment. Going to hold it and see where we get to. The other trade that I have in terms of the majors is US dollar Canadian dollar, so the double dollar as I like to call it, and it's a very similar story to US dollar Swiss franc. If I look at the daily chart, we're in a downtrend. I define the trend on the daily chart. So we had a lower high here. We had a kind of lower low here. We're consolidating now. I think, well, what I'm betting on is we're going to have a push down to test this level here, this even handle here, but you know, who knows. So again, it's sideways tracking. We may get a close above the 50 simple moving average here. If these exponential moving averages start to cross above the 50 simple moving average, I'll start to exit another third, and the final third in line with my rules. I've already taken off 1/3 when the 10 exponential moving average crossed over the 30. So that's the majors. And in terms of the synthetic pairs, so these are the cross pairs. I've got one trade on here, and one trade that I'm well, a couple of potential trades that I'm watching. I may get a signal to enter. What have we got here? We have got Euro Swiss franc. If this loads, let's just give it a second to load. This trade I've been in for a few days now. Here we go. So kind of a similar story. We're in a downtrend on the daily. Had a bit of a bump above the trend, but we now seem to be back on track. I sold here off this Z candle. Yeah, we're kind of trekking down these two thinner golden lines. This is kind of what I would class as the intermediate trend line, so we're at the top of that now. So we may or may not get a push back down into the target here. And then finally, in fact, let me just show you this. This trade here has been on an absolute tear. This is euro pound. Before the challenge started, I bought the euro pound pair around about here and traded all the way up, and then here I took off half the position at the top of the range and was holding half a position with a tight stop, but was stopped out. But I always look at this trade and think it would be great to be able to jump back on this, because look at how this pair has moved. We had a very steep trend line and then a shallower trend line. I mean, even just that distance from there to there, we're talking 99 pips or points. So I think there is scope still to get long on this pair. If I get a signal here at the bottom of the trend line, that will be my clue to get in on the buy side of this pair. The other trade, yeah, so that's it there. Let's jump into the commodity synthetics. Got one trade on here. This trade is doing nothing today. This trade has been impacted by news on both sides of the equation. I talked about that a little bit earlier on this morning in my video this morning. This is pound Aussie, which I'm short. Here we go. So this is the 240 chart. Yeah, overnight, not great news out of Australia, but the market kind of reacted the opposite way. And then here on this 10 o'clock candle here, we had some retail news, which was good in the UK. It was better than expected in the UK, which gave the pound a little bit of a bump up in this pair. But the way I still see this pair, we're in this consolidation range here. I believe it's likely we're going to push down further. The pound is in a downtrend. The Australian dollar is at the top of a range. If it breaks the top of that range and the pound continues to descend, then obviously that will have a bearing on how this pair pans out. So what this means is that the strength of these currency pairs is around about the same. At the moment, the strength of individual currencies is around about the same. But don't forget, we're still in a downtrend here. And to buck the trend is always difficult. The trend is your friend until it's not your friend any longer. So I'm going to hold this as long as I can. I've rolled my stop here so that if this does reverse and stop me out above the 50 simple moving average, which is sloping down, then this trade will be around about a break-even trade. It's in profit, of course, at the moment, but I think it's going to be a lot more in profit if things pan out the way my signals tell me that it may pan out. But as always, this is a game of probability. You win some, you lose some, but obviously you try and win more on the ones you win and lose less on the ones you lose.
Well, good morning, Friday morning at around about 10:45. Got a meeting this morning, so I'm in town, just past the offices where I started out my career, KPMG, where I started out as a chartered accountant, and obviously life is very different now. Slightly out of breath, just running up a hill, but quick update on the markets and where we are, what I'm doing. So a good as place as any, watching my step, as to talk about last night's comments from the Federal Reserve, which basically quick comment, basically let traders believe, or the perception in the market changed, that the Fed would cut rates earlier than expected. What this did is weaken the US dollar. What this did is favoured my US dollar shorts. But I put on a trade yesterday, just watching my step here. I put on a trade yesterday in pound-dollar cable. And this was a short position, so effectively long the dollar. This suffered some heat last night. As a result, I lightened up on a third of the position. I talk about this in today's blog, which you can read at stgforex.tv. But now price is looking to go back down in line with the direction of my planned trade. Longer term trend downwards in cable. And what you tend to find, as I spoke a little bit about yesterday, on news spikes, the retail trader gets sucked in, starts buying, as in this case. But the reality is that the long-term trend is still in place, and professionals use this as an opportunity, in this case, to sell into the retail frenzy of buying, because in a zero-sum market like Forex is, for every buyer there has to be a seller, and for every seller there has to be a buyer. So the professionals use the retail frenzy of buying to sell into, and quite often after a rapid move in one direction, you see the real move in the other direction when the professionals get involved. And this often happens with non-farm payrolls, first Friday of every month. And I think, time will tell, and I'll find out later, I think this potentially happened last night. So got this quick meeting, then it's off to a networking lunch, and then I'll be back having had a few drinks, maybe it is Friday. Then I'll be back to the charts later on to see how things have progressed. Keeping an eye out in between time, on the basis that I like to know what's going on. I'm not going to trade from my phone, but I do like to know what's going on. So you've got to love the English summer. It's summertime, it is July, and it is pouring with rain. Just had my first meeting, now off to my networking lunch. As I talked about in the blogs this week, important to get out from the trading desk. I go to a networking event once a month, meet people who aren't involved in the markets, have some food, a few drinks, and just forget about the markets for a period of time. And it's really good for my mental health, my mental well-being. Getting too caught up in the markets day in, day out, sitting in front of screens is not conducive to making money from the markets. So off there now in the rain. So Friday afternoon, around about 10 to 5, back from my lunchtime networking event. Really good event. Few drinks afterwards in the pub, but not too many. And I know that my phone's pinged. I know that my Euro Swiss franc short has hit target, which is great. I know there was some news as well out just after, I think, 1:30 in the Canadian dollar, which pushed, well, certainly was bearish for the Canadian dollar. Which hurt my USD CAD short for a period of time, but from what I've seen on my phone, it looks like that bid, well, the bids on that, probably the the speculative bids, the frenzied bids that you get after the news, they look to have calmed down, and perhaps the downtrend has resumed. So I've not looked at the charts, no idea specifically what's going on, so I'm going to jump into those now and wrap up Friday and see where we finish the week.
So first up, cable, we tested up here. This was the news yesterday. and this was the Federal Reserve, basically the tweet last night. And we're now trading down towards the 50, looking really to get a close below that 50 to help give some kind of credence to this downtrend in towards my target. I've got 2/3 of my position still on. The buy stop I put in here, having missed this this crossover night, has not triggered. So we'll see what happens, but so far so good with this trade. Remember, we got a lower low here, a lower high here. If we get a lower low below these levels here, that will give some reasonable assurance that the downtrend is set to continue. The next trade I'm in, US dollar Swiss franc, so the Swissy. Okay, so this trade's not really gone anywhere. Made a lower low here below this low, so just holding this. This trade is taking some time to work out. We're at the if I jump into the daily chart, we're kind of trading off the top of this this trend line, which dates 1, 2, 3. It's got 4 tests of it, so yeah, reasonable trade. No reason to do anything. Simply to hold it and to wait to see what happens. Then I've got my US dollar CAD trade. Just before I jump into that, let's let this correct itself. If I go into the into FOREX Factory here, you'll see at 1:30 p.m. today there was retail sales out of Canada, which impacted the Canadian dollar negatively. So this really here is probably retail bids off the back of that negative Canadian dollar news, but as is often the case, this bidding has been capped, and look where it has been capped, at the top of this kind of range that's formed on Canadian dollar, US dollar, Canadian dollar. We didn't close above this level here, so I think there's a good possibility we'll head down towards my target. Note that just narrowly missed out on hitting my stop. My stop is set 20 points, 20 pips away from the highs here. So yeah, getting some bid pressure in this candle here, but it'll be interesting to see where that candle closes. But I think it's unlikely we'll see this target by the end of this week, given that it's 10 past 5 now on Friday, and it's unlikely we'll be stopped out at the end of this week. But the trade still holds good. There's no reason to take off any additional thirds of the trade. There's no need to lighten up given my signals, so just going to hold and hold over the weekend and see how this plays out next week. So into Euro Swiss franc, my short got in here, and what happened while I was out at the networking event, price traded down and triggered my target, so taking off half of the position. So now I've rolled the stop here to here, so this is a risk-free trade, and I think there's some good downside potential in this pair. So just going to hold, stops here now, which is just about clear at the top of this range, yeah, we'll see where that goes. And then finally my pound Aussie short, been tracking sideways here. I've rolled my stop here, so that technically this is a risk-free trade. Already hit target 1, first target T I should say. If price does reverse and hit my stop, I'll take a loss on this position, but the profit on the hitting the initial target will see me about break even on this trade, so quite a comfortable position. Got a Z candle here off this 30 exponential moving average, so this price didn't manage to close above the top of this level here, so I think there's a good possibility we're going to see more downside momentum, but as always, time will tell. What this means for the week then is that 5 trades in total. On the first 3 trades, cable, Swissy and Looney, I've lightened up a third of my positions on each of these trades, as they've not progressed in the direction of my trade as I'd hoped. These are what I call close stops here, so 3 losses there. Still in these trades though, with 2/3 of the position on each, and some of these are working better now, as I've just shown. Euro Swiss franc hit target here and got an open profit of a similar amount, and pound Aussie hit target here. Yeah, got a similar, in fact more than, I think double this in terms of open profit. But you know, open profit, paper profit doesn't count. It's book profit that does count. So what that means, unless I'm stopped out or further targets are hit, which is very unlikely at this late stage in the day, this means a profit here of for just over £400. You can work the percentages out on the 50k opening capital, but what would that be? That's probably around about I guess 1% of opening capital. So not the best week, but not lost money. So you know, protecting capital is always my priority. So I'm going to wrap this video up now. What I would say is, if you're enjoying these videos, then please do a couple of things. Visit the blog post, daily blog post at stgforex, FOREX.tv. I post a daily blog post there, usually before 9 AM. It showcases all of the trades I'm taking with full transparency. And this video, produce one of these every week. Please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification button, and please consider liking or sharing. And hope you enjoyed it. And of course, this challenge is a long one. It's 36 months in length. So I'll be back next week with another video.